Excellency, take your seats. We are about to start the opening ceremony. Thank you very much. Thank you for your understanding. Tell them to bring water and glass. Give galang. شرفهم نخليه معك It's full there. Very good. In the back.
البروتوكول مع فلسطين تقول له ينزل تحت ما عنده مكان هون ورا الرؤساء.
قال الواحد لازم يكون معاه كان هو راجل كبير ما بيقدر يمشي للكويت. May I kindly request again, all of you, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start the opening ceremony, and I humbly request all of you to take your seats so that you allow us to start the opening ceremony, please. And especially, dear friends here in front of the podium, please, all of you behind,
Your Excellency President Mahmoud al-Sheikh al-Azwan, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of African Union, Your Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and host of the 38th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the Union, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Mr. Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Mohamed Abbas, President of the State of...
Excellence, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Premier ministre de la République démocratique d'Éthiopie, notre hôte, honorable chef d'État et de gouvernement, chers collègues, Excellence Moussa Faki Mohamed, président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, je souhaite une chaleureuse bienvenue à tous les chefs d'État et de gouvernement et les hauts représentants des États membres et à nos distingués invités. Je voudrais aussi exprimer notre appréciation pour votre présence. Je suis heureux de déclarer ouverts les travaux de la 38e session ordinaire de la conférence de l'Union.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I humbly call all of you to rise for the African Union Anthem. Thank you. Your Excellency Mohammed Wil Sheikh Al Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellencies, Heads of States and Governments of African Union Member States, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohamed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Abbas Abu Mazin, President of the State of Palestine, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Maya Moore Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados, Your Excellencies, distinguished former presidents here present, Honorable First Ladies here present, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, Your Excellency Dr. Monique Nzanza Baganwa, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellencies, Commissioners, and all the leadership of the Commission, Excellencies, Ambassadors, members of the Permanent Representatives Committee, Your Excellency Mina Wamakela, Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, Your Excellency Madame Nardos Bekele Thomas, Chief Executive Officer of the African Union Development Agency, AUDA-NIPAD, Your Excellency Dr. Jan Kaseya, Director General of the Africa CDC, Your Excellency Ambassador Marie-Antoinette Roscatre, Chief Executive Officer of the African Peer Review Mechanism, APRM, Your Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Minister of Cooperative Governors and Traditional Affairs of the Republic of South Africa, former chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies, heads of United Nations specialized agencies and international organizations here present, سعادة نائب الأمين العام لجامعة الدول العربية ممثل الأمين العام, Your Excellency Luis Moshikiu Abo, Secretary General of the International Organization of La Francophonie, Your Excellency Dr. Warkena Jibihu, Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, Your Excellencies, Heads of COMISA, ECOWAS, TINSAT, EAC, ECAS, SADC, and UMMA, Your Excellency Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of the African Development Bank Group, a strong believer of the African development and prosperity, Your Excellencies Dr. Benedict Oki Orama, President of the Afri-Exim Bank, Your Excellency Dr. Sidi Wildeta, President of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADIA, معالي الشيخ شخبوط نهيان آل نهيان, وزير الدولة بدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة, Excellencies, Permanent Observer Representatives to the African Union, and Excellencies, representatives of our partners to the African Union, all protocol observed, members of the press, a very good morning to you all. It gives me immense honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the opening ceremony of the 38th Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly of Heads of States and Governments, being held today at the Nelson Mandela Hall, the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, the capital of Africa. Addis Ababa, a vibrant city that has been at the heart of the Pan-African diplomacy and multilateralism, stands as a symbol of Africa's unity and progress. As a host nation of the African Union, Ethiopia plays a crucial role in fostering continental dialogue and advancing African integration. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the 38th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Governments of the African Union holds significant importance as it will oversee the elections of the chairperson and the deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission. Over the past years, the African Union has made remarkable progress in conflict resolution, mediation, and peacekeeping efforts, contributing to greater stability across the continent. Economic transformation has been further strengthened through the African Continental Free Trade Area and accession to the G20, contributing towards the implementation of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, having said so, the program of today's opening ceremony will stand as follows. We will have a statement by His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, followed by a statement by His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, following which a statement by His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. We shall then have a statement by His Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine. Then His Excellency Mahmoud will Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union, will make his opening remarks. Immediately after that, we will call the Dean of African Ambassadors in Ethiopia to introduce the new Bureau, members of the African Union Assembly, following which we shall have the handover ceremony for the Chairperson of the African Union. Then we will go to the launch of the African Union theme of the year, Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations. Without any further ado, I have the great honor and privilege to invite His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency, the floor is yours. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, President Mohammed Ould, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellency, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, diplomats, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ethiopia, the cradle of Pan-Africanism and a proud champion of African unity and freedom. It is an honor to stand before you today as we reflect on the immense potential we hold, not just as individual nations, but as a united and dynamic continent. In a world marked by rapid change and multiple challenges, we find ourselves at a crossroads of uncertainty and opportunity. This moment calls upon us to strengthen our collective resolve, embrace resilience, and foster unity across Africa. The theme for this year's assembly calls on us to heal the scars of historical injustice and overcome lingering trauma that has long hindered our progress. The demand for reparations is not about charity or financial aid. It is a call for justice. It seeks to restore the dignity of millions and heal the deep scars of poverty, inequality, and discrimination. It demands an end to the systematic exploitation of our wealth, resources, and opportunities. It also calls for a transformative process that acknowledges past harms and takes bold steps to right the wrongs caused upon us, upon society. Across the continent. Thank you. Thank you. Most importantly, the call for reparations requires not just words, but concrete actions to affirm the equal worth of every human being. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to achieve lasting peace, justice, and prosperity, we must rise above the geopolitical tensions and the historical divisions imposed upon us by colonial borders. By fostering solidarity among all of our nations and embracing a shared destiny, we can pool our resources and talents to unlock our continent's full potential. Africa's cultural, ethnic, and linguistic diversity is a source of pride and strength upon which we must build inclusive governance and equitable development. Conflict resolution, diplomacy, and peace building must remain at the heart of our efforts. By championing African solutions to African challenges, we can secure lasting peace and stability. Let us celebrate our achievements in politics, science, economics, and arts. Strategic initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Area give us the tools to boost intra-Africa trade, reduce external dependency, and achieve self-reliance. With Africa's large and dynamic use, abundant natural resources, and growing technological innovations, we have all the means to ensure sustainable growth. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, particularly generative AI, offers unprecedented opportunities to transform our economies and societies. By collaborating in AI, fintech, renewable energy, and mobile technology, we can address shared challenges such as climate change, infrastructure gaps, and public health crisis. Africa's rich and diverse data sets are essential for training robust and inclusive AI models. This highlights the importance of African representation in shaping future technologies. However, as we embrace these advancements, it's essential to protect our data sovereignty, prevent digital exploitation, and develop homegrown AI solutions that reflect African values and contexts. As our data sets grow, so must our capacity to harness them for local and global good. When used responsibly, AI can be a powerful tool in conflict prevention, transparent governance, and inclusive development. Africa must actively participate in the global technology race to ensure we are competitive players in the evolving digital landscape, while also ensuring we benefit equitably from this technological revolution. Furthermore, Africa's voice on global issues must grow stronger, ensuring that we have a say in shaping governance frameworks and other much-needed reforms in the global order. By empowering grassroots movements, youth networks, and educational programs focused on digital literacy and technological innovation, we can inspire the next generation. This will ensure Africa stands not just as a beneficiary of a global advancement, but as a key contributor in shaping the future of humanity. Excellencies, the opportunities before us are immense. Ethiopia is determined to prosper, guided by a vision of vibrant democracy, sustainable economic growth, rich cultural heritage, social progress, and a deep commitment to environmental regeneration. To realize this goal, we have laid out a pragmatic roadmap rooted in the transformative principles of Madamar. Madamar, an Amharic term loosely translated as synergy, is our guiding philosophy. It is a homegrown ideology that promotes prosperity, unity, sovereignty, security, and national dignity. At its core, Madamar encourages social and economic advancement, celebrates diversity, and nurtures a spirit of community grounded in Ethiopia's rich culture, spirituality, and values. Reflecting on the progress of the past 5 years and building on the vision of Madamar, Ethiopia has made remarkable strides. Despite inheriting a nation deeply divided along ethnic lines, burdened by substantial debt, and facing numerous internal challenges, we have moved forward with determination. At the same time, we navigated a complex and ever-changing regional and international landscape. Yet, through resilience and cooperation, we continue to move closer to the realization of our shared vision of prosperity. Our achievements speak for themselves. Allow me to share a few highlights. We have reformed our political system, transforming into an inclusive multi-party framework that reflects the diversity of our nation. To deepen these reforms and foster cohesion, reconciliation, and peace, we are undertaking a national dialogue. On the economic front, we have built a resilient and diverse economy. Over the past 5 years, we have doubled our cultivated land, increasing crop production to nearly 700 million quintals, with the wheat accounting for 40% of this total. These efforts have strengthened food security and driven rural development. Today, Ethiopia is the largest wheat producer in Africa. Thank you. Through collective efforts, we have reduced external debt by over 50%, double both GDP and GDP per capita, and tripled government revenue in 5 years, with an 8.1% growth reported in the most recent fiscal year. Across the country, our major cities are evolving into dynamic, culturally rich, and sustainable hubs. In education, we have established 40,000 kindergartens and primary schools to boost early childhood education. Additionally, we have launched a program to train 5 million coders to strengthen our digital economy. Furthermore, we strive to honor our heritage by restoring national sites, developing tourist destinations, and reclaiming cultural artifacts, fulfilling our duty as the guardians of our nation's treasures. These accomplishments reflect the unwavering spirit and resilience of the Ethiopian people and underscore our firm commitment to advancing Ethiopia's future. With its focus on unity, cooperation, innovation, and shared progress, Madamar can serve as a guiding framework for our Pan-African agenda. By embracing its principles, we can forge a path toward a more just, equitable, and prosperous future for all Africans. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us march forward with determination, harnessing the limitless potential of our continent and its people. The time is now to claim our future, build a legacy of equality and prosperity, and secure dignity for all. Let us be the generation that unites the continent and our diaspora in a shared vision of justice, prosperity, and peace. To conclude, I thank our outgoing chairperson, President Mohammed Ould, for his leadership and representing our organization on the global stage. Allow me to also warmly congratulate our newly chairperson, President Joao Lorenzo, and wish him success during his tenure. I would also like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed for his exemplary leadership as chairperson of the African Union Commission over the past 8 years. Throughout his tenure, His Excellency Musa Faki has shown unwavering commitment to Africa's development, peace, and integration, significantly strengthening the African Union's role in addressing the continent's challenge. I also extend my sincere thanks to him for being a steadfast friend of Ethiopia, supporting us not only during our times of success, but also in our moments of difficulty. Thank you, my brother. As we bid farewell to His Excellency Musa Faki, it is with great pleasure that I extend a warm welcome to our incoming chairperson of the African Union Commission here in Ethiopia. I am confident that under his leadership, we will continue to make great strides toward achieving our collective goals. I wish him every success during his mandate. Thank you for your attention, and I wish us all a fruitful summit. God bless Ethiopia. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your statement, and thank you for the generous hospitality extended to our Excellencies, heads of states and governments, as well as distinguished delegates. Thank you. And now allow me to invite with great honor and pleasure His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Excellences, Monsieur Mohammed Ould Cheikh Al-Ghazouani, Président de la République islamique de Mauritanie, Président en exercice de l'Union africaine, Excellence Dr Abiy Ahmed, Premier ministre de la République d'Éthiopie, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État, du gouvernement et des délégations, Excellences, Monsieur Mahmoud Abbas, Président de l'État de Palestine, ma très chère sœur amie Mia, Premier ministre de Barbados, Excellence, Monsieur Antonio Guterres, Secrétaire général des Nations Unies, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Docteur Nkosazana Zuma, ancienne présidente de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Madame la vice-présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs les commissaires, Mesdames et Messieurs les secrétaires généraux et exécutifs des communautés économiques régionales et mécanismes régionaux, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs exécutifs des organes et institutions spécialisées de l'Union africaine, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs des missions diplomatiques, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs. C'est à la fois avec un grand honneur et un immense plaisir que je m'adresse à vous aujourd'hui pour la dernière fois en ma qualité de président de la Commission de l'Union africaine. Je voudrais tout d'abord, puisque nous sommes encore au début de l'année nouvelle 2025, présenter à vos excellences, vos familles et vos peuples, au nom de tous les personnels de l'Union africaine, mes meilleurs vœux de santé, de prospérité et de succès. Je voudrais aussi exprimer mes sincères remerciements suite de la guerre ravageuse au Soudan, à l'est de la République démocratique du Congo, les divisions de la Libye, dont je salue l'adoption hier ici même de la Charte de réconciliation. Félicitations à vous, Monsieur le Président Danouis Sassou Nguesso. Les tensions de tous ordres au Sahel, au bassin du lac Tchad, au golfe de Guinée, au Mozambique, à la Corne de l'Afrique et dans la région des Grands Lacs sont un autre pan de ces chapelets embrasiers des crises africaines. Les flux de réfugiés politiques, économiques, environnementaux et autres personnes déplacées internes viennent accentuer la situation sécuritaire, alimentaire et sanitaire déjà fragile de nombreux États membres. C'est à ce contexte mondial et régional fortement dégradé que nous avons été confrontés au cours des 8 dernières années de développement de notre action. Excellences, Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, la réforme institutionnelle de notre Union entamée en 2017 ambitionnait la création de conditions optimales pour garantir la poursuite efficiente des programmes inscrits dans notre boussole doctrinale stratégique, l'agenda 2063, aux fins d'une meilleure résistance aux défis ainsi identifiés. À ce titre, la reconfiguration du leadership de la Commission, un processus d'évaluation des performances du personnel, des rapports de collaboration plus étroits entre l'Union africaine et les communautés économiques régionales et mécanismes régionaux, actés par un nouveau protocole, l'institutionnalisation d'un sommet de coordination dédié à l'intégration, la mise en place des groupes techniques R10 et F15 chargés de veiller à la qualité des ressources humaines recrutées et au respect des règles d'or de la gestion budgétaire, financière et comptable de l'Union ont été les points saillants de cette réforme. Une évaluation de la pertinence de tous les organes de l'Union, sans exception aucune, fera naître une nouvelle cartographie administrative et institutionnelle de l'Union. J'insiste ici, en particulier, sur 3 parmi ces organes. Le Parlement panafricain, le Conseil de paix et de sécurité et le Comité des représentants permanents. Le mouvement d'ensemble de la réforme, avec ses ombres et lumières, confirme sa pertinence et sa nature nécessairement progressive à se déployer sur le long terme. C'est une exigence d'adaptation perpétuelle des structures de notre Union aux évolutions qui caractérisent le monde. Je voudrais ici remercier les présidents Paul Kagame et William Ruto pour leurs remarquables efforts pour faire avancer cette réforme. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, l'évaluation de la première décennie de mise en œuvre de l'agenda 2063, couvrant la période allant de 2014 à 2023, révèle les progrès sectoriels accomplis dans notre marche vers la construction de l'Afrique que nous voulons. Il est crucial d'en tirer les vraies leçons et de procéder aux ajustements pertinents subséquents. Dans le domaine de la santé, c'est une approche holistique, traduite sur le terrain à travers des actions auréolées de succès. Avec la survenance de la pandémie de la COVID-19, Africa CDC s'est affirmée comme l'instrument le plus efficace de la lutte contre toutes les maladies. La préoccupante question du financement de la santé continue de nous préoccuper. 2 mécanismes de financement de la couverture sanitaire universelle et celle de la lutte contre la malnutrition sur le continent ont été conçus. Grâce au Centre africain des vaccins vétérinaires, PANVAC, dont le nouveau laboratoire de production de vaccins a été inauguré en février 2024, une avancée significative dans le domaine de l'élevage, de la santé animale et du développement socio-économique a été réalisée. L'Agence africaine des médicaments, AMA, a commencé l'installation de son siège à Kigali et ses activités sont sur la rampe de lancement. La médecine traditionnelle a bénéficié de l'élaboration de 2 plans décennaux, le dernier courant de 2025 à 2035. Le champ de l'éducation a été animé par la volonté de concevoir un nouveau système éducatif pensé en fonction des exigences d'un monde où l'enjeu majeur est devenu la compétition autour de l'innovation scientifique, technologique et maintenant par l'intelligence artificielle. C'est en cohérence avec cette âme que des stratégies diverses et complémentaires ont été développées, notamment lors de la conférence de Nouakchott de l'année 2024, initiée par la présidence en exercice la Mauritanie, en collaboration avec la Commission de l'Union africaine et d'autres partenaires, dont l'UNICEF et l'UNESCO en particulier. La centralité des problématiques genre et jeunesse a été affirmée. Les envoyés spéciaux femmes et jeunes se sont bien implantés dans l'univers institutionnel du leadership de l'organisation. Tout au long des 8 années de ce double mandat, bien d'autres domaines cruciaux ont retenu toute l'attention qu'ils méritent, de par leur importance pour le développement socio-économique de l'Afrique. Qu'il s'agisse de notre vision sur les questions minières, du programme détaillé de l'agriculture et de l'économie bleue, du développement des infrastructures et de l'énergie, du changement climatique avec l'adaptation et la résilience climatique du continent, de l'intégration régionale à travers la mise en œuvre de la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine, de l'opérationnalisation effective du Fonds de la paix qui a dépassé l'objectif de 400 millions de dollars, du traitement des crises humanitaires dont l'Afrique est l'épicentre avec la mise en place de l'Agence africaine humanitaire, du renforcement de la visibilité de l'Union africaine à travers notre partenariat avec les Nations unies. Tous ont été au centre de notre entreprise collective. Je profite de l'occasion pour rendre ici un hommage tout particulier à un artisan majeur de ces partenariats. J'ai nommé Antonio Guterres, un grand ami de l'Afrique. Merci Antonio. L'accession de l'Union africaine au G20 et les BRICS, dont plusieurs États africains sont membres, est venue couronner cette visibilité. Sur toutes ces questions, les structures spécialisées de l'Union africaine et les États membres ont mené des réflexions approfondies et tracé des perspectives claires pour certaines et rendu concrètes bien d'autres. Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, il y a quelques mois, j'ai adressé à vos Excellences une lettre relative à quelques urgences centrales dans le devenir de notre Union et de ses capacités de réaliser au mieux possible nos objectifs. Je pense ici d'abord au Conseil de paix et sécurité, évoqué plus haut. Son rôle devrait s'accomplir sur la base des textes qui régissent son fonctionnement, dont il tire la force et la légitimité de concevoir, d'encadrer les questions prégnantes de notre sécurité collective et d'imposer, si nécessaire, les sanctions requises le cas échéant. Il est fort regrettable que ces décisions soient parfois contraires à nos principes et lorsqu'elles ne le sont pas, restent souvent lettres mortes. Les décisions de cet organe continental central ne sauraient être considérées avec désinvolture et négligence par les États membres, ni par une conception et des pratiques biaisées des communautés économiques régionales au nom du principe galvaudé d'une subsidiarité interprétée de façon intéressée et partisane. L'évocation du CPS renvoie à la question des changements non constitutionnels du gouvernement. À cet égard, j'ai mentionné dans la dite lettre que nous n'avons plus désormais que 2 options. Soit abandonner les principes qui régissent actuellement cette problématique, soit les appliquer sérieusement, quitte à les réviser et les adapter à nos besoins et réalités nouvelles. Nous ne pouvons, pour notre crédibilité, continuer à ressasser telle une litanie ces principes tout en les piétinant ou acceptant leur flagrante et constante violation. Il n'y a rien de plus corrosif de notre crédibilité qu'une telle attitude qui a conduit ces derniers temps à une véritable défiance vis-à-vis des règles et principes et fragiliser l'intégration dans une partie du continent. J'ai mentionné également le marasme persistant et paralysant de notre insupportable division en matière de représentation en relation avec nos partenariats dits stratégiques. J'appelais ici encore à choisir l'une des 2 options qui s'y présentent pour nous et dont j'ai présenté clairement les termes dans ma lettre.
J'avais également mentionné la question récurrente du financement de l'organisation, laquelle paradoxalement contraste avec les tendances continues de multiplication des organes sans souci de leur financement. Une organisation indépendante et gardienne de notre liberté et de notre souveraineté ne saurait se construire par les financements d'autrui. J'avais également soulevé la réduction privative d'initiative du président de la Commission de l'Union africaine et appelé à son harmonisation avec les obligations légales et coutumières qui s'imposent désormais à lui. En somme, l'essence de ma correspondance est simple et peut-être brutale. C'est la question d'être dignement ou ne pas être de notre organisation, placée devant une terrible conjugaison de facteurs de complexité. Ce sont toutes ces questions auxquelles vous faites face aujourd'hui que j'ai voulu pudiquement poser dans ma lettre. Allons-nous enfin ouvrir les yeux sur le sort de notre organisation ou alors continuer à la laisser se lamenter et gémir? Excellences, Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est une vérité banale aujourd'hui d'affirmer que les concepts et les instruments juridiques servant de cadre d'analyse des dynamiques de la politique internationale contemporaine sont périmés. Ils ont perdu leur vertu à la fois structurante et explicative des phénomènes mondiaux actuels. Un tel constat explique pourquoi les débats portent aujourd'hui sur les modalités d'avènement d'une nouvelle gouvernance économique et politique mondiale. L'Afrique ne peut rester muette et inactive. Elle doit impérativement se jeter dans la bataille pour se tailler sa place propre dans les configurations en cours de recomposition. Ce n'est pas facile. Cela demandera de l'ingéniosité, de la créativité, de la méthode, du courage. Plus généralement, cela demandera une vraie rédemption pour un réveil de la conscience et de l'âme du panafricanisme. Celui de la conscience de notre africanité, celui de la fierté de notre africanité, celui de l'attachement à notre africanité, celui du rejet de notre dépersonnalisation et de notre servilité nihiliste, de notre identité et de notre être. C'est à quoi nous appelle la jeunesse africaine. Celle-ci, majoritaire dans tous nos États, est de plus en plus exigeante. Sa voix résonne de plus en plus fort grâce aux nouvelles formes de communication qui amplifient toutes les expressions. Cette jeunesse africaine nous interpelle et nous fait constamment un procès en déphasage de ses aspirations, qui sont celles d'une Afrique ouverte sur elle-même et unie, souveraine dans ses politiques et choix, debout et solidaire. Cette solidarité a toujours été notre planche de salut dans notre combat contre le colonialisme et l'apartheid et le parachèvement de notre indépendance. Nous venons de nous incliner sur la mémoire d'un de ces grands combattants, Sam Nujoma. Ça doit nous rappeler quelque chose, mesdames et messieurs. La foi dans notre solidarité panafricaine a galvanisé nos consciences, nos volontés et nos intelligences pour nous conduire vers un destin commun plus prometteur. Il n'y a pas de nouvelle voie de notre futur que d'écouter et de donner corps aux aspirations de notre jeunesse, nos concitoyens et notre diaspora. Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, je quitte définitivement mes fonctions dans quelques jours. J'avoue que je me sens envahi par un doux sentiment de liberté qui m'autorise ces quelques mots venant du cœur. Le premier est un mot de profonde gratitude à vos excellences pour la confiance que vous m'avez accordée en m'élisant pour 2 mandats successifs, président de la Commission de l'Union africaine. Soyez assurés que j'ai mesuré et je mesure toujours toutes les dimensions de cette confiance et du lourd poids de la gratitude et la reconnaissance subséquente. Le deuxième mot
porte sur l'autre et moi. Dans cet autre, je pense d'abord à nos partenaires, surtout ceux qui nous ont offert une amitié sincère et une coopération mutuellement avantageuse. Je voudrais les remercier tous et leur exprimer notre gratitude. Je pense ensuite à vous ici présents, ainsi qu'à ceux qui nous ont quittés pour différentes raisons. Nous avons réalisé de bonnes et grandes choses, et surtout avons, autant que faire se peut, respecter une certaine éthique et une ligne de conduite que nous croyons conforme à nos principes et objectifs. Veuillez accepter toute ma reconnaissance. Les membres des commissions de l'Union africaine, d'autres hommes et femmes ensuite, y ont travaillé, souvent dans l'ombre, avec assiduité, dévouement, discipline et talent. Je voudrais leur rendre l'hommage qu'ils méritent. Le troisième mot est relatif à mes propres limites. J'ai tant voulu faire vite et mieux au cours des 2 mandats que vous m'avez confiés. Je sais que je n'ai pas tout fait. Peut-être ai-je sous-estimé la lourdeur de la tâche et le poids des pesanteurs. Je sais que j'ai peut-être commis des erreurs. Je ne devrais peut-être pas dire peut-être. J'ai certainement commis des erreurs. Peut-être ai-je ici ou là faibli ou m'étais trompé et manqué des occasions de faire mieux. Je voudrais m'en excuser et demander pardon si mes manquements ont causé un quelconque tort individuel ou collectif. Le 4e mot est relatif à mon sentiment de l'instant. Je suis heureux de reprendre ma liberté. Mais je sais que j'aurai aussi la nostalgie des lieux, des femmes et des hommes que j'y ai connus, du peuple éthiopien à la civilisation millénaire. À vous, mon cher Dr Abiy Ahmed, Betam Amesegnalem. Peut-être faudra-t-il écrire l'histoire de tout cet enchevêtrement de sentiments et de sensations. Enfin, mon 5e mot est celui de mon serment, de continuer à servir, de penser à l'Afrique, à servir l'Afrique, à rêver pour elle, pour sa jeunesse à laquelle nous n'avons pas fait suffisamment et à laquelle nous devons faire beaucoup, car après tout, c'est elle qui compte aujourd'hui et davantage demain. Un mot de la fin à vous, Monsieur le Président et cher frère Mohamed Cheikh Al-Ghazouani, pour vous dire combien j'ai apprécié votre proximité tout au long de votre mandat. Vous avez été un maître de sagesse, de civisme et de hauteur, inspirant à tous égards. À vous, Monsieur le Président et cher frère Joao Lourenço, je me permets de souligner que la force tranquille que vous symbolisez me rassure sur une présidence en exercice de sérieux et de substance. Puissiez-vous tous les deux en particulier, et nous tous, avoir une pensée agissante pour les grands prisonniers du Sahel, le président Mohamed Bazoum, dont rien ne justifie l'interminable détention. Il doit être libéré sans condition. Plein succès à notre sommet, plein succès à notre prochain leadership. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you for your statement. Thank you for your unwavering commitment. Thank you for dedication towards Africa's peace, development, and unity. Thank you very much. I will now have the honor to invite His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Monsieur le Président de l'Union africaine, Excellences, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. President Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, thank you for your leadership in the outstanding exercise of your mandate. Presidente João Lourenço, parabéns e aguardo com expectativa a oportunidade de trabalhar consigo como novo Presidente da União Africana. I also want to give a very special expression of gratitude to the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki, for his 8 years of strong and permanent commitment to multilateralism and impeccable cooperation with the United Nations. Cher Moussa, travailler avec toi est un privilège, un plaisir et un honneur. Excellencies, the partnership between the African Union and the United Nations has never been stronger. Together, we see an Africa booming with hope and possibility. You have a booming, enterprising population, including the largest number of young people in the world. The African continental free trade is poised to turbocharge the region's economy, and calls to address the legacies of colonialism and slavery are growing louder, as reflected in your theme this year, and as reflected in the leadership of so many passionate voices for the liberation of Africa, such as the great Dr. Sam Nujoma of Namibia, whose life we celebrate and whose loss we mourn. The world must never forget that Africa is the victim of two colossal and compounded injustices. First, the profound impact of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. The roots stretch back centuries, and the bitter fruit continues to affect Africans and people of African descent to this day. Decolonization alone in itself was not a panacea. Political independence did not free countries from structures based on exploitation and decades of economic, social, and institutional underinvestment. It is high time for reparatory justice frameworks to be put in place. Second, Africa was under colonial domination when today's multilateral system was created, and that injustice endures. Look no further than the United Nations Security Council. There is no excuse that Africa still lacks permanent representation, and the international community must come together to stop the flow of weapons and the bankrolling of bloodshed. In the Democratic Republic of the Congolese people have been suffering yet again from a brutal cycle of violence. And the fighting that is raging in South Kivu as a result of the continuation of the M23 offensive threatens to push the entire region over the precipice. Regional escalation must be avoided at all costs. There is no military solution. The deadlock must end, the dialogue must begin, and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the DRC must be respected. The conclusions of the recent joint EAC-SADC summit offer a way forward with a renewed future, supports an international financial architecture reform to reflect today's economy, ensuring fair representation and urging effective action on debt relief. And I will stand with Africa as a matter of justice and to right the historic wrongs. Excellencies, third, the climate crisis. Climate disasters are tearing across Africa, destroying lives, upending livelihoods, devastating economies, and inflaming conflict. At the same time, the renewables revolution is unstoppable, and Africa is poised to become a global clean energy powerhouse. Yet, today, Africa receives just 2% of global renewables investment. Realizing Africa's potential requires access to affordable finance, including by implementing the COP29 finance decision fully and on time, and supporting development of a roadmap to realize $1.3 trillion a year. Excellencies, Africa has contributed little to the climate crisis, yet is paying the price with record droughts, floods, and heat. Climate justice requires a massive investment in adaptation, with the international community bearing an enormous responsibility. Developed countries must double adaptation finance, and countries must significantly boost the loss and damage fund. Allow me a note. When the loss and damage fund was created, the pledging conference that took place has allowed for an amount that is equivalent at the highest contract for a basketball player in the United States. It is absolutely necessary to make the loss and damage fund an effective instrument to support developing countries in adaptation. And we also need justice when it comes to your abundant critical minerals. Too often, your countries are plundered, bound to the bottom of value chains as others grow rich on your resources. The work of the United Nations panel on critical energy transition minerals is designed to help embed justice, sustainability, and human rights across the value chain. Africa's minerals must benefit Africa's people. Excellences, enfin, nous devons agir dans le domaine des nouvelles technologies, notamment l'intelligence artificielle. Près de 2/3 de la population africaine sont privés d'un accès fiable à l'Internet. Nous avons une responsabilité historique, faire en sorte que l'intelligence artificielle profite à l'humanité tout entière et pas seulement à quelques privilégiés, États et compagnie. Le pacte numérique mondial partage les ambitions du pacte numérique africain. Connectivité universelle, renforcement des capacités et une gouvernance responsable de l'intelligence artificielle. Je présenterai bientôt un rapport sur les modèles innovants de financement volontaire et les initiatives de renforcement des capacités afin d'aider les pays du Sud global à exploiter l'intelligence artificielle pour le bien commun. Ensemble, assurons-nous que les promesses seront tenues. Excellences,
أبو مازن على خطابكم الضافي إن مشاركتكم من هذا to invite His Excellency Muhammad Wuld Sheikh Al Ghazwani,
صاحب الفخامة الأسطن وتر أثناء القمة بأبيجان، ومثلت لحظة هامة في عملية التجديد 21 لموارد هذه المؤسسة، وقد أسفرت جهود الدعم والمناصرة هذه عن تجديد موارد المؤسسة الدولية للتنمية بمستوى غير مسبوق وصل 100 مليار في أعمال القمة الإفريقية الكورية، وحصلنا خلالها على زيادة كبيرة في كان الهدف من دمجه وكان الهدف التركيز كان القارة فئة الشباب المعرضة لمخاطر البطالة وللهجرة غير الاعتماد إعلان واكشوط تكون دعامة تنموية مستدامة، خلق فرص العمل الملائمة، تقليصا لدوائر إلى نظام يحتاج كذلك مثل كل مواطن إفريقي عموما إلى منظومات صحية تؤمن نفاذا شاملا لخدمات صحية جيدة وتكون قادرة على الصمود في وجه الحوائج والصدمات الصحية الطارئة كالتي شهدتها القارة مؤخرا مثل جدري القردة وماربول والكوليرا. وأود في هذا المقام التنويه بالإدارة الاستباقية التي واجه بها المركز الإفريقي لمكافحة الأمراض والوقاية منها في إفريقيا ما استجد مؤخرا من صدمات صحية مفاجئة، مهنئا الدكتور جان كاسيا وفريقه على العمل الرائع الذين يقومون به في هذا الإطار. وسأتشرف اليوم أمامكم بتقديم تقرير مفصل بهذا الخصوص بحول الله وقوته. أصحاب الفخامة والمعالي، أيها السادة والسيدات، انسجاما مع إعلان داكار حول السيادة الغذائية ومع الوثيقة المنبثقة عن قمة إفريقيا والولايات المتحدة، نظمنا قمتين استثنائيتين في سبيل تعزيز المنظومات في قبيل تعزيز المنظومات الزراعية. انعقدت أولاهما في نيروبي في مايو 2024 زراعية، واعتمدت خلالها استراتيجية وخطة عمل التنمية الزراعية الشاملة في إفريقيا للفترة 2026-2035. وإنني لأوصي التربة لصالح الإنتاج الغذائي المستدام وتحفيز الاستثمار وبناء زراعة صناعية. ومعلوم أن النهوض بقطاع إنتاجي كالزراعة خاصة في البعد الصناعي منه يستلزم توفر طاقة نظيفة بالكمية الكافية وبالتكلفة الملائمة. وسعيا إلى تحقيق هذا الهدف نظمنا في دار السلام مع صاحبة الفخامة السيدة سامية صلوحو وبالتنسيق مع مجموعتي البنك المنصرم القمة الإفريقية حول الطاقة المهمة 300 من أجل ضمان النفاذ إلى الكهرباء لصالح 300 مليون مواطن إفريقي في جنوب الصحراء. وقد تم خلال القمة عرض التعهدات الطاقوية الوطنية للعديد من الدول الإفريقية، وإنني لحريص في هذا الإطار على تقديم التهنئة والشكر الجزيل لرئيس البنك الإفريقي للتنمية السيد أكويميني أديس، وكذلك لرئيس مجموعة البنك الدولي السيد أجاي بانغا على ما حرص عليه من توحيد الجهود في إطار هذه الشراكة الطموحة، وكذلك على ما دأب عليه من دعم وموازرة للجهد التنموي الإفريقي. ثم إن للطاقة دورا أساسا في التحديات البيئية التي تلحق بالغ الضرر بمجموعاتنا الإفريقية، على الرغم من ضآلة مساهمتنا وحجم جهودنا الكبيرة في إحراز تحول طاقوي تدريجي وعادل. ولذا باسمكم جميعا خلال الدورة 29 لمؤتمر تغير المناخ المنعقدة في باكو نوفمبر 2024 على ضرورة تحمل المجتمع الدولي مسؤوليته ولزوم دعمه لقدرتنا على مواجهة الآثار الهدامة للتغيرات المناخية. أصحاب الفخامة والمعالي أيها السادة والسيدات، إن تحقيق أهداف خطة العمل الثانية لتنفيذ أجندة 2063 يرتبط كثيرا بقوة وعمق التنسيق ما بين الاتحاد الإفريقي والمجموعات الاقتصادية الإقليمية والآليات الإقليمية. ولذا ركزنا خلال اجتماع التنسيق على ضرورة دمج الخطط الوطنية في البرامج القارية توطيدا لتكامل القارة وتعزيزا لوحدة صوتها دوليا. ووحدة الصوت هذه هي ما سيمكننا من أن نتبوأ المكانة التي تسمح لنا بالإسهام الفعال في صياغة جداول الأعمال الدولية على نحو يجعلها أكثر تركيزا على قضايانا الإفريقية الحساسة. ولذا وفي المؤسسات المالية المتعددة الأطراف، وعن ضرورة إعادة صياغة قواعد الحكامة الدولية وتعزيز التعاون المتعدد الأطراف. وقد لاقت جهود المناصرة هذه أصداء إيجابية والتزامات صريحة بالعمل بمقتضاها في مختلف القمم والمؤتمرات، غير أن النجاعة بل وفي العمل الإفريقي المشترك لإصلاح الهيئة. وأنتم تعلمون إصلاح الهيكلي في تناوب المرشحين ونظرا لخطورة وإلحاح الوضع عقدنا دورة استثنائية للمجلس التنفيذي في مارس 2024 اتخذ خلالها قرار يحدد بشكل دقيق كيفية تطبيق مبدأ التناوب وتحديد المناطق المؤهلة لوظائف القيادة المختلفة ضمانا للتناوب العادل والمتوازن بين المناطق. وانسجاما مع هذا النفس الإصلاحي عملنا على ملف مراجعة المهارات وتقييم القدرات داخل مفوضية الاتحاد الإفريقي. فتم تنظيم اجتماع استثنائي آخر للمجلس التنفيذي شهر نوفمبر 2024 لاتخاذ القرار بشأن أفضل السبل لإتمام هذه العملية. وبعد مداولات مستفيضة اعتمد لهذه العملية. وفي خطاب التسلم أن تجاوز العوائق ورفع التحديات لا يكون إلا بالاتحاد وصهر الجهود الذين تستوجبه اشتراكنا لوحدة المصير ويقضي به حجم الرهان ويستلزمه سمو الغاية التي نسعى إليها جميعا. الأمر الرئاسة جاو لورينسو متمنيا له التوفيق والنجاح في المهمة الجسيمة التي أوكلت إلى فخامته، معربا عن دائم استعدادي لدعمه ومؤازرته. ولا يفوتني هنا أن محمد رئيس مفوضية الاتحاد الإفريقي مشيدا بخصاله القيادية وشاكرا له دعمه الدائم ومساندته القيمة طيلة هذه المأمورية، ومتوجها مفوضية ومختلف أجهزة الاتحاد. أنا معتز وفخور لما أتيح لي خلال هذه المأمورية من خدمة قارتنا الإفريقية المنابر. أنا أعمق إيمانا بأهداف أجندة 2063 وأقوى عزما وإرادة على المشاركة الفعالة في ذلك. وإذ أجدد التهنئة لأخي صاحب الفخامة لأرجو له ولأعمال قمتنا هذه الإفريقي.
شكرا فخامة الرئيس على كلمتكم. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, now allow me to invite Yusuf Mundoha Asumani to Ethiopia Union, Dean of the African Ambassadors in Ethiopia, to introduce the new Bureau of the African Union Assembly for this session.
Lance Ould, président en exercice et président de la République islamique de Excellence, Monsieur Abiy Ahmed, Premier ministre de la République fédérale démocratique. Excellence, Messieurs et Madame les chefs d'État de l'Union africaine, Excellence, Messieurs de l'État de la Palestine, Excellence, Madame la première vice-présidente de la République de Barbados, Excellence, Secrétaire général des Nations Unies, Excellence, Monsieur Moussa Faki Mahamat, Président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Excellence, Monsieur le Secrétaire général adjoint de la Ligue des États arabes, Excellence, Mesdames les chefs des délégations, Excellence, représentants Excellence, les chefs des organes de l'Union africaine, chers invités, à vos rangs et grades, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. J'ai l'honneur de vous présenter le bureau de la conférence pour l'année 2025, conformément à l'article 16 du règlement de la conférence. Le bureau se compose comme suit. Président, là. Premier vice-président, la République de Burundi. Afrique centrale. Vice-président, Afrique de l'Ouest. Troisième vice-président. Islamique de Mauritanie, l'Afrique du Nord. Cela a été proposé pour votre approbation et je vous remercie.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and congratulations for the new elected bureau. I have the honor now to invite to deliver his hand.
Je voudrais remercier mes chers collègues chefs d'État et de gouvernement, membres de la conférence, de m'avoir porté à la tête de l'Union africaine comme président en exercice au titre de l'année 2024-2025. Durant cette période, nous avons ensemble œuvré à faire avancer l'agenda du développement et de l'intégration de l'Afrique. Je tiens à vous remercier pour le soutien et vous remercier pour l'accompagnement sans faille qui ont contribué au succès de la Mauritanie et de l'Afrique dans l'exécution de cette noble tâche. Et je vais vous demander de me permettre maintenant d'inviter mon frère, le président João Lourenço, pour la passation du témoin et lui souhaite beaucoup de succès et de réussite. Je vous invite, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And now I have the honor to welcome His Excellency João Manuel Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, the new chairperson of the African Union, for the handover ceremony in the High Table. You are welcome, Your Excellency.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations, Your Excellency. Allow me now to call His Excellency João Manuel Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, Chairperson of the African Union, to deliver his acceptance speech. Your Excellency. Excellency.
Sua Majestade Swati III do Reino de Swatini, Sua Majestade Letsi III do Reino do Lesoto, Sua Excelência Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, Presidente da República Islâmica da Mauritânia e Presidente cessante da União Africana, Suas Excelências Chefes de Estado e de Governo, Sua Excelência Abiy Ahmed Ali, Primeiro-Ministro da República Democrática Federal da Etiópia e anfitrião da conferência, Sua Excelência António Guterres, Secretário-Geral das Nações Unidas, Suas Excelências representantes de chefes de Estado e do Governo, Sua Excelência Moussa Faki Mahamat, Presidente da Comissão da União Africana, membros, Sua Excelência Presidente Mahmoud Abbas, Presidente da Autoridade Palestina, nosso convidado de honra, excelentíssimos membros do corpo diplomático acreditado em Addis Ababa, Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores. Gostaria de manifestar a minha mais profunda gratidão à Sua Excelência Abiy Ahmed Ali, Primeiro-Ministro da República Democrática Federal da Etiópia, e ao povo etíope, por uma vez mais, tal como ocorre no mês de fevereiro de cada ano, albergarem a sessão ordinária da conferência da mais importante organização do continente africano, pela calorosa recepção e excepcional hospitalidade reservada a todas as delegações desde a nossa chegada a este belo país. Agradeço igualmente a Sua Excelência Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, Presidente da República Islâmica da Mauritânia e Presidente cessante da União Africana, pela forma notável, dinâmica e proativa com que dirigiu a nossa organização durante este último exercício. Foram desenvolvidas durante o seu mandato ações que contribuíram de forma apreciável para a realização dos principais objetivos definidos pela nossa organização para o ano que terminou, como o de se apostar na construção de sistemas educativos pujantes, de modo a permitir o acesso à educação de qualidade a todos os cidadãos africanos, tendo em vista a melhoria do desempenho do continente a nível global, em conformidade com os objetivos preconizados na Agenda 2063 da União Africana e com os da Agenda 2030 das Nações Unidas. Vossa Excelência deixa-nos um grande legado, cabendo-nos a responsabilidade de trabalhar no sentido de valorizar e potenciar ao máximo o trabalho por si realizado, pelo que conto para este efeito com o apoio e experiência do Sr. Presidente e o dos outros Estados-membros da União Africana, de modo a que a República de Angola possa levar por diante uma presidência que vá ao encontro das expectativas dos cidadãos do nosso continente e ajude a acrescentar mais um passo no caminho que percorremos para se alcançar o objetivo do desenvolvimento socioeconômico de nossos países, a concretização da Agenda 2063 no quadro de todas as ações e esforços que empreendemos para construir a África que queremos. Os meus agradecimentos estendem-se a cada Estado-membro da União Africana, especialmente aos da África Austral, região onde estamos inseridos, pela confiança depositada em Angola para presidir neste ano de 2025 a União Africana, numa altura em que o nosso continente se depara com imensos problemas ligados à paz e segurança, que constituem um fator de bloqueio a todas as iniciativas e ações que procuramos levar a cabo em benefício do desenvolvimento das nossas nações. Como é do conhecimento de todos, é a primeira vez que a República de Angola assume esta importante responsabilidade de conduzir os destinos do nosso continente nos próximos 12 meses, o que me levará a olhar com atenção para os principais problemas de África e colocar ao serviço da nossa organização a nossa experiência na busca de soluções para as questões relativas à paz e segurança e cuidar da implementação pelos Estados-membros das políticas econômicas e sociais que promovam o progresso e o desenvolvimento do nosso continente. Tem para nós um significado muito especial o facto de assumirmos a presidência pro tempore da União Africana neste ano 2025, em que Angola comemora 50 anos da sua independência nacional. Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, no decurso desta conferência serão debatidas questões de grande relevo para a organização, funcionamento e crescimento da União Africana, bem como para a operacionalização de um modo prático da questão relativa à justiça para os africanos e os afrodescendentes por meio de reparações, que constitui o lema escolhido para este ano, e também o que Angola elegeu para a sua presidência, que está centrado na importância do investimento nas infraestruturas como fator de desenvolvimento de África. A conjugação destes dois aspectos pode levar-nos a construir um canal de comunicação e de diálogo com os nossos parceiros internacionais que os faça compreender a importância e vantagem de cooperar com uma África desenvolvida, industrializada, com capacidade para superar a fome, a pobreza, a miséria e o desemprego, reduzindo assim a probabilidade de conflitos armados e de imigrantes ilegais junto às suas fronteiras. Teremos a oportunidade de abordar estas questões na 4ª Conferência Internacional sobre o Financiamento para o Desenvolvimento, a ter lugar em Sevilha, Espanha, de 30 de junho a 4 de julho do corrente ano, por constituir uma oportunidade histórica para se redefinirem as regras de financiamento global baseadas na justiça econômica e na inclusão. Tendo em conta os compromissos assumidos em conferências anteriores, mas nem sempre cumpridos, designadamente o Consenso de Monterrey, a Declaração de Doha e a Agenda de Ação da Addis Ababa, a 4ª Conferência de Sevilha, visa responder aos desafios persistentes que se verificam no financiamento para o desenvolvimento e favorecer a adoção de soluções inovadoras e eficazes. Temas como a justiça fiscal, o alívio da dívida, o financiamento climático, as reformas nas instituições financeiras globais e a inclusão social devem merecer a nossa atenção para que seja adotada uma posição comum que garanta ao continente o reforço da sua influência na governação financeira global, uma redução dos custos do endividamento e o acesso aos recursos necessários para alcançar um desenvolvimento sustentável. A concretização destes objetivos criará seguramente sinergias que vão dinamizar e ampliar as trocas comerciais, o intercâmbio cultural, técnico, tecnológico, científico e noutras áreas que poderão produzir vantagens significativas para todas as partes. Acreditamos que nas perspectivas que traçamos para os nossos países, enquanto governantes, incluímos programas a serem executados com um grande sentido de prioridade no domínio das infraestruturas fundamentais, designadamente as vias rodoviárias e ferroviárias, os portos e aeroportos, as centrais de produção de energia elétrica e respectivas linhas de transportação e distribuição, absolutamente indispensáveis para a industrialização do nosso continente e a melhoria das condições de vida das nossas populações. No decurso da presidência pro-tempore da União Africana, que passamos a exercer a partir de hoje, pretendemos lançar, em articulação com todos os membros desta nossa instituição, um vasto plano de atração de investimentos e de captação de recursos financeiros significativos junto dos nossos grandes parceiros internacionais, para que a Comissão da União Africana estabeleça as bases e defina os projetos de infraestruturas a serem realizados. Destaco o contributo que Angola poderá prestar ao desenvolvimento de África, colocando ao dispor o excedente energético que tem para a mitigação das necessidades de vários países neste domínio da energia. Pela relevância e importância estratégica que assume no quadro da transportação de produtos diversos e também no do comércio intra-africano e no de África com o resto do mundo, gostaria de destacar a importância do corredor de Lobito e dos caminhos de ferro tanzanianos Tazara, que poderão desempenhar um papel incontornável na interconexão entre os países africanos e na promoção do comércio que pretendemos realizar no âmbito da Zona de Comércio Livre Continental Africana. Tendo em vista o que referi anteriormente, considero que devemos ter uma estratégia bem definida para colhermos benefícios significativos do facto de a União Africana integrar o G20, o que constitui uma conquista essencial para garantir que o nosso continente seja parte ativa das decisões econômicas globais. Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, as linhas estratégicas da presidência angolana estão alinhadas em termos gerais com as ações prioritárias definidas a nível continental, no âmbito da aceleração do segundo plano decenal da implementação da Agenda 2063, correspondente ao período de 2024 a 2033, centradas nas infraestruturas de transporte e conectividade, energia e recursos naturais, paz e segurança, agricultura e economia azul, integração continental e zona de comércio livre, educação e capacitação e parcerias estratégicas. Neste quadro, das grandes linhas da nossa atuação, adquire uma importância central a questão da paz e segurança, por se tratar de um dos principais pressupostos para se materializarem as aspirações contidas na Agenda 2063 da União Africana, em especial o programa que estabelece o silenciar das armas até 2030, que visa transformar a África numa região pacífica, segura e confiante num futuro promissor e de prosperidade para todos nós africanos, decididos a colocar o nosso continente na rota do desenvolvimento. No relatório sobre as ações que realizei no quadro das minhas atribuições como campeão da União Africana para a Paz e Reconciliação em África, apresentarei de forma mais detalhada as ações que empreendi para ajudar a restituir a paz ao nosso continente e, em especial, na região leste da República Democrática do Congo. Também vos falarei da minha visão sobre o que será essencial levarmos a cabo no futuro para que se consiga pôr um fim definitivo aos conflitos em África e fazer face aos desafios que as mudanças inconstitucionais de governo, o terrorismo e, mais recentemente, a invasão e ocupação de territórios de países vizinhos nos colocam. Temos ainda os desafios que se prendem com as catástrofes naturais resultantes das alterações climáticas e dos surtos de Marburgo, ébola, de varíola de origem animal e da cólera, que ciclicamente nos afeta e nos obriga a trabalhar de forma unida e solidária para que encontremos soluções coletivas para a sua superação. Nesta perspectiva, considero essencial que olhemos para a terceira Conferência dos Oceanos, agendada para o corrente ano em Nice, França, como uma oportunidade para se discutirem as principais preocupações que sobre esta matéria afligem o nosso continente. Tendo mais de 30 países costeiros, o continente deverá ter como objetivos a proteção dos ecossistemas marinhos, promover uma economia azul sustentável, intensificar as ações contra a pesca ilegal, a poluição marinha e as alterações climáticas, que são, na verdade, desafios gigantescos a que temos de fazer face permanentemente. Quero, desde já, manifestar a esperança de que esta conferência contribua para a segurança alimentar, para o reforço da resiliência costeira e crie condições para que se mobilize o financiamento internacional para projetos sustentáveis no quadro da economia azul. Excelências, neste ano da presidência angolana, vamos trabalhar em coordenação com a Comissão da União Africana para mobilizar maiores recursos financeiros por via do reforço da cotização de cada Estado-membro, para que possamos, assim, dotar-nos dos recursos necessários à realização de projetos e programas a nível continental, reduzindo, assim, a nossa dependência relativamente ao financiamento externo. Excelências, minhas senhoras, meus senhores, estamos a viver um ambiente internacional extremamente desafiante, em face dos nefastos efeitos dos conflitos que o continente enfrenta, bem como dos que vive o leste da Europa e a região do Médio Oriente. Apesar disso, temos a plena convicção de que, se conjugarmos esforços e unirmos as nossas forças, conseguiremos ultrapassar estes grandes desafios e construir a África com que sonhamos, e com uma voz cada vez mais ativa na abordagem dos grandes problemas que afligem a humanidade. É neste contexto que considero que devemos continuar a agir como um só corpo, no sentido de que as Nações Unidas se tornem mais inclusivas e alinhadas com os desafios e oportunidades de hoje, devendo a reforma do Conselho de Segurança continuar a ser uma prioridade fundamental para o nosso continente, pelo que é importante que reafirmemos o nosso compromisso com o consenso de Esulwini e a declaração de Sirte de 2005 a favor de 2 lugares de membros permanentes com o direito de veto e outros privilégios inerentes. Excelências, gostaria de pedir a todos a maior contribuição possível para que a presidência da nossa organização continental, que a partir de hoje assumo, possa decorrer num clima de grande compreensão e com o dinamismo que se impõe neste longo caminho que juntos percorremos pela transformação da África num continente de riqueza, de prosperidade para seus filhos. Permitam-me que transmita uma palavra de apreço à Sua Excelência Moussa Faki Mahamat e aos comissários que cessam hoje as suas funções na Comissão da União Africana pelo excelente trabalho desenvolvido no decurso dos seus mandatos ao serviço da nossa Casa Comum. Desejo à nova liderança sénior da Comissão da União Africana muitos sucessos no desempenho das novas funções, enquanto apelamos para que o espírito pan-africano e os ideais dos pais fundadores continuem a guiar o futuro da nossa organização continental. Declaro que aceito passar a exercer, a partir de hoje, as funções de presidente pro tempore da União Africana e que as lágrimas que derramamos hoje pela perca do grande filho de África, Samuyoma, se transformem na força que nos vai fazer superar todos os desafios que temos pela frente. Muito obrigado pela atenção.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in introducing the theme of the year 2025, Justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations, it is now with great honor that I welcome Her Excellency Dr. Monique Nzanza Baganwa, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, who will share her introductory remarks. Your Excellency. Then we will introduce Barbados.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the Chairperson of the African Union, Your Majesties, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency and dear brother, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, allow me to stand on already established protocol. Over the past centuries, the voices of Africans and people of African descent have echoed in various quarters with a singular demand: justice. Justice for the millions who were forcibly uprooted from their homes. Justice for those whose lands were plundered, wealth stolen, and dignity were stripped away. And justice for the generations that continue to face economic, social, and political disenfranchisement stemming from historical wrongs. As I draw my term in office as Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission to an end soon, a unique opportunity is offered to me and one of my teams, SIDO, to introduce to you the 2025 theme of the year, Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations. As we embark on this journey in 2025, we are guided by the words of the eminent Pan-Africanist Kwame Nkrumah, who declared, and I quote, "We face neither east nor west. We face forward." The African Union's Agenda 2063 envisions a continent that is integrated, prosperous, and driven by its own citizens, a continent that is peaceful. The strength of this Africa has always been in its unity and resilience. At this moment, we stand at the precipice of history, and together we shall pave the way for a more just and dignified future for Africa, the CARICOM, and Africa's global diaspora at large. Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, as I conclude, since I'm not the one to deliver the high-level message, we have two leaders who will do it in just a short. But let me take this opportunity to thank all our stakeholders who have journeyed with us. Thank you, Ghana, and our champion, President Mahama, for inspiring the African Union with this theme. I wish to thank you, my dear brother Musa Faki, for your leadership and support. But through you also acknowledge our teams who have worked hard around this theme of the year. Especially, I wish to recognize two ladies. Madam Coleman from your cabinet chairperson and Angela from SIDO. You did an amazing work. Special appreciation goes to Her Excellency Mia Amor Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados and Chair of the CARICOM Authority. You have traveled all the way from home to another home to join us in today's launch. May I now invite you, Your Excellency, to come to the podium and address this august assembly. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Your Excellencies, and may I start, Chairperson of the African Union, President of Angola, Your Excellency, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and our host, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Your Excellency, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union, and President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government of the African Union, and First Ladies present, Your Excellency, the President of the Palestinian Authority, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies, former heads of state and heads of government of the African Union, distinguished delegates, ambassadors, and guests all. I stand here clothed in the spirit of the battles of Adwa, conscious that it was that battle within 24 hours that shook the confidence of the powers of Europe, but inspired the people of Africa and the children of the African diaspora that good would prevail over evil and light over darkness, but only in the context of our unity. I stand here conscious that it was that battle that forged the beginnings of Pan-Africanism, that eventually led to the movement for independence and the destruction of the colonial powers, to give us not full development and power, but the first steps of political independence. I stand here conscious and buffeted by the dreams and works of the great Pan-African pioneers, and conscious that as a children of the Caribbean, we have long dreamt for the moment of unity with our brothers and sisters of Africa, a division that was secured by those whose success and survival depended on separation of us rather than on the ability for us to act as one common people. Our relationship, you can say, was embryonic. But regrettably, as long as it has been and as related as we have been, it has been sporadic. And it is up to us, as the children of independent states, to determine whether the history of separation shall be our future, or whether the spirit of Adwa can be our inspiration to confront the challenges of a new world. Yes, I stand here as a daughter of Africa. I stand here equally as a proud Prime Minister of Barbados, a country which is the first landmass that you reach after you leave this great continent of Africa. A country which became a hub for the wrong reasons. But today I come to Ethiopia to share with you in the Africa Union that we can be a hub now for the right reasons between our two peoples. I stand here as the proud chairman of CARICOM, the Caribbean community, recognizing that as a member of the 6th region of Africa, we have come to reclaim our Atlantic destiny. We have come to ensure that the very futures of our people are different and will not once again be determined by a middleman who will ensure that the Middle Passage is one that sees our people at the bottom of the ocean's floor of the Atlantic or in the fields of the plantations of the Caribbean, but instead that it will be a future that sees our people, hears our people, feels our people, and that will determine in future that it is we who shall forge the manner in which we cooperate, integrate, and invest, rather than simply being victims of a past history. I stand here equally as the chair of the V20, 70 countries across the world that are climate vulnerable, 40% of whom come from this great continent of Africa, recognizing that it is only through unity that we can confront the existential crisis of our generation, that of the climate crisis. The Secretary General of the United Nations has already laid out, ably so, many of the iniquities that we continue to face in spite of political independence. It was His Majesty Haile Selassie who popularized and told us that there shall be no first-class or second-class citizens, words popularized by Bob Marley, learned by all of our people without appropriately recognizing the context in which he spoke and the mission which must be ours for generations until it is achieved. He told us that there would be war if there were first-class and second-class citizens. He told us that there would be war if the color of our skin was more significant than the color of our eyes. And we see here in the continent the continued descent into conflicts born out of ethnicity differences, born out of a mad grab for resources, not invariably for our own benefit, but for the benefit of others who seek to use our people as pawns in the determination of their own future. But we stand here as proud people, and we have enough among ourselves to know the difference between right and wrong, and to forge a future that is not for a few, but for the many. Indeed, as the world confronts the climate crisis, it is the poorest of the poor who remain the most vulnerable to floods and droughts and hurricanes. It is the poorest of the poor, and soon to be the middle of the middle, who will no longer be able to access insurance and therefore to be able to forge ahead with development if we do not make changes. We have examples of a partnership that have worked for us, not just from the spirit of Adwa and the conquest and the rise of the Pan-Africanist movement in our history, but within recent times. During the COVID-19 pandemic, it was the Africa Union, under the leadership then of President Ramaphosa, and with the assistance of Dr. Tedros of the WHO, that recognized that the Caribbean, which was being marginalized by denial of access to basic therapeutics, basic medical equipment, to vaccines, that we should not be left as pariahs on the global landscape, but that our brothers and sisters in Africa would bring us through the Africa Medical Supplies platform to be able to ensure that we could secure for our own people. It was with the solidarity of many of you in the Africa Union that the Bridgetown Initiative has been able to take root and to make a case for a more modern and a fairer system that allows us to be able to access finance and to be able to put in place measures that allow us to be able to pause our repayment of debt during the period of necessity for rebuilding after horrific climatic events. We have seen how partnership helps us. We do not need any more evidence. What is required of us is to lead the way to peace, to prosperity, and to justice. And the reparations which we call for the international community to be able to recognize, first and foremost, with that which we ask from each of our children. Say sorry. Say sorry. And mean it. And after you say sorry, recognize that the future of the world is not possible without the stability of Africa and its diaspora. For as long as hypocrisy and double standards remain, it will be impossible to secure stability and peace in any nation across the earth. The reparations that we call for, beyond sorry, must be for fair access and development and compensation, because we each started the journey of independence with a chronic deficit. A deficit of resources, a deficit of fairness, a deficit of opportunity. And it is up to us, many of us in the second and third generation of independence, to be able to frame out fairly in a mature conversation what those reparations must look like if we are to attain justice and to inspire the young people of this world that good must always prevail over evil. But it is not only the reparations that we ask from the international community, because we ourselves must repair the damage that was foisted on us. The notion that transit visas, begging for them, must be the lot of our people in order to move across this world cannot be something that gives us satisfaction. To go east and to go west, we are first forced to go north. It is not right. And it is not beyond the heads of government and heads of state, of the region, of the Caribbean community, and of the continent of Africa to determine that we must stop talking about, but simply do what is necessary to build the air bridges and sea bridges to guarantee that we control our destiny. I ask us to reflect on this because it is this simple act, apart from our music and our culture and our food, that will guarantee that it is not simply heads of government and heads of state that will meet in Accra or Bridgetown, but it is ordinary people who will be able to trade and to move from the closest point of Dakar to the closest point of Bridgetown, to be able to open up the opportunities that technically ought to be available not just simply through the Africa Free Trade Area or the CARICOM single market and economy, but through the combined opportunities provided by both. I ask us equally to recognize that in an era where AI is threatening to redefine what humanity can do and even if we can survive, that it is not ours to be the victims once again of technology as we were with gunpowder, but it is for us to help shape the future of the world, because more often than not it is Africa and its people who have brought the humanizing forces to bear on civilization. And if we are to be the cradle of civilization, then we are to be the protectors of people and planet, of humanity, as we go forward. And some watching on may say, how? And I say, how not? How not does a continent that has 40% of the world's minerals not be in charge of helping to secure the destiny and stability of the planet? How not does the numbers of our two communities, who constitute a third of the world's states, not act in singular purpose to forge the kind of world that we want and to be able to ensure that the institutions that deny access to us, to hear our voices as reflective of the continent and of the small island developing states of the world, how do we not secure that admission, which is not only just, but a moral imperative if the world is to have stability in this 21st century? My friends, I ask you, how do we not secure this victory when 1 in every 5 and possibly 1 in every 4 persons on the planet will come from this continent and its diaspora? Those who lead today have a moral imperative, not just to our citizens in our own countries, but above all else, the unity. The spirit of Adwa demands of us that we recognize that even in the face of the greatest technology being foisted upon us, that we can rise and win if we act in unity. This has been a message not given by our generation alone, but by previous generations of African and Caribbean leaders. But we ask ourselves, why does it elude us? And the answer comes not from outside, but only from within. When I speak of the USA with affection, I do not only want to speak of that which is known in the Americas. I want to speak about that which ought to have been possible if the 1884 Berlin talks did not take place. The possibility of the United States of Africa, which is as diverse as India, which is as diverse as China in terms of ethnicity and language and religion, but which is entirely possible if we see not ourselves first, but we see the unity of ourselves together. This may be the cry of a naive and romantic daughter of Africa. But if that is the case, I prefer to die being a naive and romantic daughter of Africa than one who is cynical and one who is daunted by the actions and power of others. We know what it is to stand in unity with you to fight apartheid and to fight for the liberation of the peoples of Africa. For when President Castro stood to send people from his own country to southern Africa to free your people, it was in my own country that the planes refueled, ensuring that that battle was possible. And when 100 years ago, almost, a Barbadian man and woman left our nation and left the United States to come here, Arnold and Mignon Ford, he wrote the anthem and lyrics of the anthem of the United Negro Improvement Association, UNIA, and his wife dared to establish a co-educational school here in Ethiopia, ensuring that boys and girls could receive education in a time and at a time when war was dominating the global landscape. They chose to see light rather than darkness. I ask us today, in tangible terms, that will allow our people to travel, that will allow us to pool our investments to ensure that the people of Africa not be denied the electricity that is so necessary as a platform for participation in the new world. I ask us not only to pool that investment, but to also ensure that we pool our voices, because there is too much division in this world today. There is too much war and there is too much conflict. And we know what precipitates and causes that. If we leave Addis Ababa with the commitment that the world is not going to be safe without a prosperous and stable Africa, then we understand what is the moral imperatives we must undertake in each of our countries to secure that unity of purpose and to secure ultimately the saving of the people and planet. I ask you today to recognize that, and I thank Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed for agreeing that the first in-face summit of CARICOM and the African Union should take place here in Addis Ababa on the 7th of September of this year of our Lord. By that simple act, we build on the inaugural summit which took place virtually in 2021. But more importantly, we seek to regularize and to establish as a permanent point of interaction the unity of which I speak and call for. And I ask you as I leave this podium to recognize that we too in the Caribbean want to see you. Indeed, in my own country in Barbados, we will celebrate the Caribbean Festival of Arts, the 15th CariFesta, from August 22nd to August 31st. And we do so not only asking for those from Cuba and Bahamas in the north, to Venezuela, to Suriname and Guyana in the south, to Belize in the west and the Eastern Caribbean to come together to express our commitment to each other creatively through food and fashion and music and dance and art and sculpture, and talk of philosophy, talk of religion, talk of who we are, talk of the future. I ask us to recognize that we celebrate this year our resilience, and that we do so not only asking the people of the Caribbean to come, but the people from whom we came here in Africa, in India, in China, and the continent to which we went, in particular, in Central America and Latin America. This is our moment to show the world that we were not simply apostrophes to the history and the modern history of humanity, but that truly we are the ones who can level the playing field and to create the opportunities that will allow the world to see people, hear people, and feel people, and to value the planet and its biodiversity at the very time when it is greatest in crisis. Let us remove the scars of history and be firm craftsmen of our fate, recognizing that the only people who can stop us now are we, but ourselves. We have to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery and to build the future that our people want of us, and to give them that pride that is theirs. And we must do so in the spirit and with the results of ADWA. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Prime Minister of Barbados, Chair of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, for a global call for the African Union theme of year 2025. It is my distinct honor to welcome now His Excellency John Mahama, the President of the Republic of Ghana, as the African Union leader on advancing the cause of justice and payment of reparations to Africans. Your Excellency.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Chairman, President of Angola, Your Excellency, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency, Chairperson of the African Union, and in the interest of time, may I just proceed on established protocol and say, Your Excellencies, my colleague, heads of state, distinguished citizens. It's a privilege to address this historic launch of the African Union theme of the year 2025 and I quote, "justice for Africans and the people of African descent through reparations," unquote. This moment marks a significant milestone in our collective pursuit of justice, equity, and the long overdue recognition of the historical injustices that continue to shape the lives of Africans and the people of African descent worldwide. At the 37th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the African Union in February 2024, our heads of state and government made a landmark decision to dedicate the year 2025 to the cause of reparatory justice. This decision underscores our collective commitment to addressing the historical injustices and their lingering consequences that have impacted generations of Africans and people of African descent. It aligns with our broader struggle for liberation, unity, and socioeconomic empowerment as enshrined in Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, a vision for an integrated, peaceful, and prosperous continent. Your Excellencies, the transatlantic slave trade was one of the most heinous crimes against humanity, spanning about 400 years and forcibly displacing more than 12.5 million Africans. It is estimated that at least 2 million of our compatriots perished during the Middle Passage alone. The legacy of this brutal system, along with colonialism, apartheid, genocide, and neo-colonial exploitation, have left deep and enduring scars on the fabric of our societies. Today, the descendants of enslaved Africans continue to face economic disparities, social inequality, systemic discrimination, and racial prejudices. Addressing these challenges require more than just acknowledging them. It demands action. The economic impact of colonialism on Africa has been profound. Historical estimates suggest that the continent lost trillions of dollars in both human and material resources due to colonial exploitation. The forced extraction of wealth, which included minerals, cash crops, and labor, deprived African nations of the capital and infrastructure necessary for sustainable development. Colonial policies intentionally stifled industrial growth, leading to a dependency on foreign economies that persists even till today. The systemic plundering of Africa's natural resources, coupled with the disruption of traditional governance structures, has resulted in lasting consequences, worsening poverty, underdevelopment, and inequality throughout the continent. In November 2023, Ghana hosted the Accra Reparations Conference, a historic gathering that brought together African heads of state, scholars, and representatives of the global African diaspora to advance the reparations movement. This conference reaffirmed the urgent need for comprehensive reparatory justice and laid the foundation for stronger advocacy and policy frameworks. It provided a platform for dialogue on the financial, cultural, and social restitution necessary to address the enduring effects of slavery and colonialism. The outcomes of this conference served as a guiding pillar for our collective efforts moving forward. The 2025 AU theme of the year is therefore a call to galvanize efforts towards reparatory justice. It is an appeal to ensure that the dignity, rights, and well-being of Africans and their descendants are fully restored. Reparations involves not only financial compensation, but also restitution, rehabilitation, and guarantees of non-repetition for the abuse of fellow human beings. It is also about truth-telling, historical accountability, and the restoration of agency to those who have been marginalized for centuries. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the call for reparations, while including, extends beyond financial redress to encompass addressing structural inequalities, ensuring educational and economic opportunities, reclaiming cultural heritage, and amplifying the voice of Africa and the diaspora communities on the global stage. Achieving justice requires multi-stakeholder collaboration. Today's pre-launch event serves as a crucial platform for concertedly rolling out constructive consultation, dialogue, and partnership. We welcome the participation of AU member states, regional economic communities, the global African diaspora, civil society organizations, academia, the private sector, and international partners in this transformative endeavor. The African Union Commission, in collaboration with key partners, have developed the concept note and revised the roadmap to guide the implementation of the reparations agenda. This initiative will further the aspirations of Agenda 2063, fostering an Africa that is self-reliant, just, and inclusive. Through this launch, we seek to, among other things, mobilize political will and commitment towards reparatory justice and racial healing, present and discuss the roadmap for implementing the 2025 theme of the year, foster partnerships among AU member states, diaspora communities, and like-minded international allies, engage stakeholders in resource mobilization efforts to support reparations initiatives across Africa, elevate awareness and advocacy to ensure sustained engagement beyond 2025, encourage dialogue and knowledge sharing among experts, policymakers, historians, and affected communities, and finally, to ensure an end to the culture of silence and denial on racism and colonialism. Your Excellency, the work ahead requires a unified voice, a clear strategy, and unyielding commitment. Today, we reaffirm our commitment to working together to develop policies and frameworks that will support reparations efforts across Africa and beyond. We must continue to advocate for stronger legal and institutional mechanisms at the national, regional, and international levels to ensure that reparatory justice for the historical trauma inflicted on global Africa is not just a conversation, but a reality. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I wish to express Ghana's unwavering support for this critical initiative. Let us seize this moment with the determination it deserves as we work together towards a future that is fair, that is just, and equitable for all Africans and people of African descent, and by natural extension, the uplifting of all humanity. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Allow me now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to move to the family photo while calling the rest of the respective delegates to remain in their seats. Remain in their seats, please, to ensure the smooth organization of the family photo. Allow me this time to call Excellencies and Honorable Heads of States and delegates in an organized manner to proceed to the photo session location. Allow me now to start by calling distinguished presidents from Liberia, Libya, Madagascar, and Malawi. Please follow our protocol team to the family photo. There is only one door open for the family photo, which is gate number 5. Please, protocol teams, lead our leaders to the family photo. And then the second row, please. Distinguished presidents and heads of states from Cape Verde, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Comoros, Congo, Cote d'Ivoire, Democratic Republic of Congo, Djibouti, Egypt, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Swatini, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Kenya, and Lesotho. Please follow our protocol team to the family photo. Excellencies, presidents and heads of delegations from Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Africa, South Sudan, Tanzania, Togo, Tunisia, Uganda, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Algeria, Benin, Botswana, and Burundi. Please follow our protocol team to the photo session location. Honorable Presidents and heads of delegations from Mauritania, Mauritius, Morocco, Mozambique, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, Sahrawi Republic, Sao Tome and Principe, Senegal, Seychelles, please follow our protocol team. Excellency Prime Minister of Barbados. They went? Okay. Okay, with that, I thank you all for your time and I wish you fruitful deliberations. They didn't wait. Yes. They will change. I have my team.
Will be underway in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. And this is also the place where the voting will be taking place as to who between Kenya's Raila Odinga, Madagascar's Richard Randiamandrato, and Djibouti's Mahmoud Ali will be the next chairperson of the African Union Commission, and also their deputy, whoever that will be, of course, considering the gender representation that was introduced following the 2018 resolution by the African Union. And that, of course, regards the representation aspect of it and the rotational policy, which was as well introduced at the time in 2018. You're watching this special broadcast that, of course, focuses on what will be happening later in the day from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, where it is the moment of truth and Raila Odinga's big day in Addis. Previously, we had seen his arrival at the headquarters in the company of the president after they had breakfast. And this is still pictures live from the Ethiopian capital, Addis, by our team, exclusively giving you the live coverage of the arrivals of the heads of states and governments with regards to, of course, what will be happening in the course of the day. Back in studio, my team of analysts are still with me here to give us an account of what will be happening and what will be looking into some of the factors for consideration and the last-minute diplomatic maneuvers done by the Kenyan team in the capital, in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. On my immediate right is Professor Maxwell Miawa, constitutional law scholar and an advocate of the High Court. Much appreciated and good morning.
Thanks.
Your presence is highly appreciated. Ahmed Hashi is also a governance commentator, also diplomatic commentator, joins us this morning here on the broadcast. Good morning.
Ayub, it's glad to be here again.
Glad to have you as well. We are also joined by Gordon Kachola, who is foreign policy commentator. Gentlemen, your time is all appreciated. And we had an hour plus coverage of what will be activity field day from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. First, beginning with you, Gordon, what's your take of all that is happening? Has enough been done? And what does that picture of the president in the company of the former prime minister arriving at the AU headquarters project of the man who he has thrown his weight behind to support his cause for the continental job?
Thank you, Ayub. When I look at those pictures, one thing is clear. I see a committed man, intentional, and somebody who is all out to get this back home to Kenya. It's encouraging to see what President Ruto is doing so far, and like what happened in the last contest that Kenya represented someone, or Kenya took in someone to compete for that position. This time round, we've seen a lot of energy, a lot of commitment to bring that seat back home. Yeah.
Ahmed, what do you make of the discussions we had here today, the D-Day, and you can see how Addis is expecting the outcome as to who then takes over from Musa Faki Mahamat?
Probably this is the most important political situation in Africa today, because the idea of bringing this continent together is gaining steam across the continent, because we're now clearly about to understand that nation states in this continent need to have their crises solved, and it cannot be solved internally. The old idea of non-interference in the internal affairs of another country in Africa is dead, because you could see what's going on today in the DRC, where the troops from this rebel movement are about to capture Bukavu. And I put it to you, Ayub, that is going to cause immediate reaction in the African Union today, because the entire issue of the Great Lakes is in emergency, and I'm sure it's going to have a profound impact on the elections that are coming today. As a Kenyan, of course, we all wish our candidates the best. I mean, it would be very unfair for me as a citizen of this country and as a senior citizen not to wish the former Prime Minister the best of luck. But as you know, in my view, is I think that this region, a lot of places in this Africa are very anti-Kenyan. They feel that Kenya is a very strong state, and giving them power in the AU is going to push the agenda of Kenya even more so. So my views remain the same from last time.
Which is?
Which is, I believe the Prime Minister is going to lose this election.
But you nonetheless wish him the best.
But I nonetheless wish him the best. But I believe that the obstacles are so huge that it's, you know, someone said that I think you're the bravest man I've met. And I said, why? I said, because you just speak your mind. I said, no, it's not about speaking my mind. This is about telling the people of Kenya this alternative universe is there. There's another alternative universe. They can get an informed idea. We're a maturing democracy. We should be able to make some room for different views about what's going on.
Okay. Prof, what's your take?
Of course, I take a very strong divergence, divergent views from my colleague,
of course.
who, of course, today I realize we went to the same university.
By the way, he's my junior from the same university. So I think you should accord me a little bit of respect.
Thank you so much. I think the divergence comes in this way. For the first time, we see the exportation of the Kenyan brand of politics into the continent. I think one thing for certain that this speaks to, but I think it's largely because of the nature, the character, the charisma of who Raila Odinga is, together with the charisma of William Ruto. We are seeing for the first time the politicization of the African continental diplomacy. This is something that is highly unprecedented. I mean, we saw elections before. We have had at least 4 AU chairs. But we did not see as much fireworks.
That's true.
As much vibrance, as much vigor and rigor into the election campaign. This tells you that Kenya has got something new, something great to offer. The Africanization, the Africanization of the politics of diplomacy that has been brought by 2 prominent Kenyan individuals, Raila Odinga on the one hand and William Ruto on the other hand, is perhaps going to give us something new whether Raila Odinga wins this or he doesn't win it, the African brand of diplomacy from today, particularly at the top level of AUC leadership, has changed and will be changed for quite a great long time, thanks to William Ruto and Raila Odinga.
And Gordon, when you look at the individuals who have been leading Odinga's campaigns, either directly or indirectly, Obasanjo, President William Ruto, and the Secretariat, you have seen even the last-minute campaign following up on President Evariste Ndayishimiye up to the north, out of the capital, Bujumbura, in Burundi, just to make sure everything is intact and in the right place. What does this tell us, or what does it project of these campaigns by weights that you can never rule them out when it comes to politics and diplomacy?
Well, there are two things in this campaign. One is the political aspect of it, which Professor Miyawa has talked about. Then there is the diplomatic aspect of it. And one thing that is clear, President Ruto had this in mind while he was crafting the Secretariat. He crafted a Secretariat that is highly diplomatic, that is scathingly neat as far as diplomacy of Africa is concerned. Look at, for example, the Secretary General of IGAD leading the team. It clearly shows you the weight with which President Ruto took this as far as diplomacy is concerned. All the diplomatic rigors is taken care of. Then there is the political aspect of it. The political aspect of it, the president has sorted out, because he did not leave this to the Secretariat alone. He ensured that he went out of his way, even up to last minute, like yesterday in the evening. He was still meeting heads of states and governments across Africa to pursue this agenda to the last course. Why is he doing this? He's learned from Kenya's mistakes in 2017. Ambassador Kamau, the former PS for Foreign Affairs, did confirm this, that we did our best, but last minute slumber cost us the job. This time round, the president is not taking this to chances. He's ensuring that even if the result doesn't come out as we expect, but Kenya shall have done its best in this. I agree with Professor Miyawa that the diplomacy in its practice will change drastically beginning today. And I think the pace that has been set by Kenya will have to only continue depending on the personality of any other candidate that shall come.
Okay.
Yes.
And Ahmed, have we learned the pitfalls from the 2017 loss of Ambassador Amina Mohammed leading to the birth of Musa Faki Mahamat?
I don't think we have, because I was there at the Foreign Office at that time, and without saying very much, I was of the view that there was going to be betrayal by Djibouti, for an example. The same Djibouti we're competing against. I was listened to, but the point was thought to be inconsequential. But it turned out to be very consequential, because even Uganda left us. You know the problem of the voting system, I'll try and explain the viewers to understand. You see, the candidates needs 2/3 majority.
Which in this case is 33.
Which is 33 states. So the problem is you keep going from one round to the other. Because right now the race, in my view, is tight. I think Odinga is just down by maybe 11 to 10 states, in my view. And I can explain that later if you wish. But right now, this process of going from one round to the other, it creates deal-making for positions inside the system. So if they smell blood, if a regional states or regional grouping smell blood and they think that someone is not going to make it, immediately, even though they made a gentleman's handshake with you, they can switch immediately because of their state interests, which is a factor in the election of the AU chairman. I think where we went wrong is from the very beginning, from the philosophical point of view. The permanent secretary for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Korir, an astute, competent permanent secretary, no question about that, just disagree with him about the issue, is that his philosophy was that there are certain inalienable state interests that guide the election to the AU. Now, you see, that, if that were true, then there would not be an Islamic Council, which is made up of 30 states. And about 28 of them have already committed to the candidate from Djibouti. If there was no other cultural issues, for an example, the problem of South Africa and Donald Trump, which I've explained before, the Americans are not happy with some states that may support Odinga, particularly because South Africa and Donald Trump have a diplomatic tiff, as you know, in the last week. Today, as we speak, the troops of Rwanda supported, let me say, Rwanda has denied that it supports the M23 troops. They are going to Bukavu. The first battalions have entered Bukavu last night. That's a huge game changer. The question is, will they stop or will they go to Kinshasa? And you know, Bukavu, it's right next to Burundi. There is a chance that there's going to be conflict in the next 48 hours if those people don't stop and go back to where they started, because Burundi will try and defend its borders. So I think that the DRC, the Gulf of Guinea states, and all those states that are there will be talking about sanctioning Rwanda there in the AU, and Kagame is gone there. This will have an impact on the vote, because Kenya will be asked, what is your, and Kenya is a major player in the DRC's conflict resolution process, as you know, and as my learned colleagues on the left and right know. So I think that that's an unfortunate thing that has happened there in the DRC, and I think that the effects on the election is going to be felt before we are done with this interview.
All right, Prof, I'll come to you, but first let me engage Enoch Musue, who is joining us from the county of Machakos as part of the series of lives across the county to monitor the situation across the continent, Masai, that is, then it's in the county of Kajiado, to give us a feel and the expectations of the public. What can you tell us, Masai, and having talked with the people and the expectations for the day ahead of the elections?
Kifuatilie tangu shughuli hizi zilipoanza kama siku 3 zilizopita, wakati Wakenya waliweza kumiminika katika jiji la Addis Ababa kuweza kufuatilia shughuli hii nzima ambayo itakuwa inatamatika hii leo. Na ninao hapa wananchi ambao tayari wako hapa kuweza kutoa maoni yao kuhusiana na labda matarajio yao kwa siku hii na masuala kama yale. Nitaanza hapa hivi, naona maoni ni mengi kweli kweli, lakini nitaanza na huyu kaka hapa hivi. Tueleze tu labda leo ni siku kubwa sana ikizingatiwa kwamba Mkenya mmoja ambaye ni Raila Odinga anagombea kiti cha AUC.
Okay, mimi ni majina ni Ole Taiko toka Kajiado, na tuko sisi ni wakaji wa Kajiado, na sisi obvious tunapenda baba yetu Raila. Ile kitu tunamtakia laheri, na tungependa akienda huko asisahau wa Kenya, kwa sababu kwa ukweli kama ingekuwa yeye tungeumia sana wa Kenya. Kwa hivyo hata kama ataenda huko arudi tu akumbuke watoto wa Kenya ya kwamba ametuachia nani. So tumeona kwa kweli akona president wetu ambayo ni Samuel Ruto, lakini tunaona tu akiwa pamoja tutaona kama maendeleo itakuwa. Kwa hivyo sisi tuko na tumaini pia na president wetu ambaye amemtetea kwa hali na mali. So tunaomba tu atutetee na atetee kwa Wakenya wote masisi maskini kama venye anatetea wao wadozi hao kina Raila. Kwa hivyo tunaomba tu, hiyo ndio maoni yangu, na tushikane pamoja wa Kenya, tuache vita.
Haya, asante sana. Unaweza songea tu hapa alafu tueleze labda maoni yako ni yapi? Angalia kamera.
Kwa majina ni Saidi Osore. Jambo la kwanza mimi nashukuru sana Raila Odinga kwa hiyo wadhifa. Raila ashapita ndugu zanguni. Raila ashapita, ni kutangaza tu, anangoja masaa ifike na mtangaze. Kwa sababu Wakenya tumeomba, kama mimi mwenyewe binafsi sijalala usiku mzima. Nimekesha nikiombea Raila Amolo Odinga. na kweli Mungu najua Mungu aliye hai hatakosa kujibu maombi. Raila ashapita, Wakenya jitayarisheni kushangilia ushindi wa Raila Amolo, na Mungu anajua ako na sababu. Asante sana, na Raila tunakutakia kila laheri na Mungu akubariki.
Asante sana. Wacha tuanze na huyu alafu tutakuja kwako. Karibia tu hapa alafu angalia kamera.
Asante. Naitwa Samson Kamau. Mimi ni kiongozi ya boda boda hii town. Nataka niongelee maneno ya EU. Mimi kwa maoni yangu naona ya kwamba Raila amesimama mara mingi hapa Kenya na hajaiweza kupata. So mimi kwa maoni yangu ningeonelea ningependelea akae hapa na sisi, kwa sababu hapa tunamhitaji kuliko vile anahitajika huko. Vile ningependa kusema ni ya kwamba Raila arudi tu hapa Kenya, wasikane na Wamunyoro, watoe Kasongo, kwa sababu sisi tuko na shida. Tuendelee kuhangaika pamoja sisi wote hapa.
Asante sana. Nafikiri kwa sababu ya muda mwelekezi wangu ananiambia kwamba tutarejea tena baadaye, lakini kwa sasa naomba tukomee hapo tuweze kurudi studio, alafu tutarejea baadaye. Wananchi wana maoni chungu nzima, lakini kwa sasa narejesha kwako Ayub.
Thank you, Robert Masai from the county of Kajiado. They are sampling the expectations of the public. A mixed bag, I should say, given what Laura Otieno, John Wanyama, Francis Mtalaki, Kamau Mwangi, and Crispin Otieno had given us earlier when we had kick-started this broadcast. And here is the arrivals of the heads of state at the VVIP unit of the African Union, where Seth Olale was and keeping an eye on the arrivals of the heads of state and governments for the important day of the African Union ahead of the 38th Ordinary Summit of the Assembly of the Heads of State in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Live pictures from the Addis Ababa VVIP presidential entrance area. Heads of states from the 49 member states of the African Union are arriving there. You can see the Mauritius president there, his official presidential motorcade making its way here at the Nelson Mandela plenary. This is a highly guarded and protected area. It is only meant for the heads of states and governments, their ministers, their aides, all of them being instructed to use a different entrance area. And this is the exact location where we saw earlier on Kenya's president, Dr. Samoei William Ruto, and Kenyan candidate Raila Amolo Odinga enter the Africa Union headquarters from. And, you know, it is now all system go, because the arrival of, you know, the 35 presidents, 8 prime ministers, and 6 high representatives from the various nations that have been appointed from. This one now signals the formal start of today's proceedings at the Nelson Mandela plenary, effective 10:30 a.m. And like I mentioned earlier before, the president of the Republic of Kenya, that is Dr. Samoei Ruto, drove drove in the same vehicle with Kenya's candidate Raila Amolo Odinga, even as they made their way at the VVIP entrance. And, you know, thereafter, both of them were ushered, you know, into a holding area. That has been the practice, but, you know, it was I wouldn't say opposite, but it was a very different reception from what we've seen from, you know, the likes of Djibouti candidate in the AUC chairperson, that is Mohamed Yusuf Ali, who, you know, arrived at the other VIP section designated for ministers and high representatives of, you know, heads of government. So quite low-key, but, you know, also very, very much significant. This is just part and parcel of protocol, nothing to read much from there. How the candidates for various positions here arrive here at the African Union headquarters really doesn't matter. It is just, you know, diplomatic procedure for, you know, how you choose to arrive. And, you know, President William Ruto and the Kenyan candidate Raila Odinga just chose to drive in the same car and to arrive together. You know, unlike the Djibouti candidate who we saw entering through an alternative entrance that designated for, ministers. And it serves right because, the Djibouti candidate for the African Union Commission chairperson is also the Foreign Affairs Minister for Djibouti, and he was here actually way early for the two-day Interministerial Executive Council of the African Union, which came up with various recommendations, and it is on the basis of their report that the heads of state here during this 38th Ordinary Summit are going to deliberate to either adopt or drop some of the recommendations made by the Interministerial Council, of the African Union. So a very, very, very busy morning here at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. Like I said, security has been beefed up. We've seen roads, some roads, some access roads to this particular building, have been closed. We've seen roads barricaded. We've seen traffic diverted. It's a very, very momentous, moment for Ethiopia itself, and especially when the African Union hosts the Heads of State Summit, our business almost comes to a standstill, and especially in Addis Ababa's central business district. You can imagine assembling a total of 35 presidents and, 8 prime ministers and 6 other representatives. And apart from those particular heads of states, you also have very high profile representations from the international organizations, the United Nations, for example, which is part and parcel of today's summit, the European Union, the likes of humanitarian agencies, global agencies such as the Red Cross and the Red Crescent, all of them part and parcel of today's, very, very key agenda here in this particular capital, Addis of Ethiopia. And so right now, any moment from now, viewers, we expect the official anthem for the AU to be presided over by the military by the Ethiopian forces, and thereafter we will have brief comments from speakers just to bring the meeting to order. But thereafter there will now be the unveiling of the reports, and one of the reports will be the minutes and held during the 37th summit last year here in Addis Ababa, and then thereafter there will also be adoption of reports from the Interministerial Executive Council of the AU that was attended by various up to close to 49 foreign affairs ministers. We saw the Prime Cabinet Secretary and also the Foreign Affairs Minister for Kenya being part and parcel of those particular talks that, among others, discuss issues to do with how the election will be held, the election of the African Union Commission Chair and the Deputy. We also saw the 6 commissioners of this particular secretariat of the AU also elected. We saw other representatives of the AU organs being elected, from by the various ministers. So it is upon that report that the heads of states here are going to adopt some of the discussions there. But also remember that the Interministerial Executive Council of the AU did discuss issues to do with peace and stability.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, who was welcomed by the African Union as part of the criticism they labeled against what they termed as the forceful movement of Palestinians from Gaza following the statement made by President Donald Trump when the Jordanian King Abdullah visited Washington, D.C. and met him at the White House. And they expressed concerns about that, saying that it wouldn't be acceptable to the African Union and also to the world following the more than 16 months of the bombardments that were taken by Israel targeting Hamas in Gaza. And Musa Faki Mahamat also talked by extension about the finances for key critical sectors in the African continent, including for education, for healthcare, And one critical component that he pointed out, which he said is Africa's gold mine, is Africa's youth and the growing population, young of median age, which he said will be driving the continent to the next frontier and above the horizon. He also reflected on his two-term tenure since 2017, when he was first elected to be the chairperson of the African Union Commission, taking stock of what he said were the milestones that the commission he headed had actually achieved, and part of the accomplishments, he said, had taken Africa to new frontiers and new heights, stratospheric to that event. And also talking about the issue of BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, who had their last meeting their last meeting, which was criticized by the Donald Trump administration and by extension Pete Hegseth and America's Foreign Secretary Marco Rubio, saying that he will not be attending that. That brings together the 5 countries of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Also taking to the lectern was the United Nations chief, or the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who also talked about Africa's importance in the global world order, where he called for 2 permanent representation at the United Nations Security Council, saying that the continent shouldn't be without a representation. And he said that the temporary rotational basis of representation from the continent isn't enough, and the need for an amendment of the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council in New York in the United States of America. Guterres also talked about the need for more adherence to global order, calling for respect and adherence to the set standards since World War II, when the United Nations was found. And his speech there at the plenary session of the African Union 38th Ordinary Summit of the Heads of State that will be culminating with the election of the chairperson of the African Union and the deputy chairperson. The 6 commissioners are elected by the Executive Council of Ministers. And today also will be the handover of the chairpersonship to Joao Lourenço, the president of the Republic of Rwanda, and he will be taking over that as well when the closed-door session will be happening in Addis, at the headquarters, where at the moment that session is underway. And as we sort the the technical glitch and engage my panel here to just give you what then will be happening when the session will be resuming. That includes the handing over, and to just give you this small breakdown of the session in Addis and the statements issued by Musa Faki Mahamat and the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. It then means President Joao Lourenço will be taking over from Mahmoud Ul Sheikh Al Aouzani, the chairperson of the African Union, who is serving but will be coming to an end today, who represents the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. And that's the relevance this bears, and the speakers who are touched on other global issues which are intertwined, and the need for Africa's relevance in how events are unfolding across the world. Fluid nature, so to speak, of the very important aspect that they have mentioned. Ahmed, coming to you first here. And it clearly shows that Africa, beyond the elections, this isn't about the chairpersonship or the deputy. You had seen them now tearing into the Donald Trump statement that whatever they